to another week with me, Susie Pettit, your certified life and wellness coach. And I am here today with a special treat for you all. I have Christy Whitman, and she is a transformational leader, master certified coach, energy healer, and the New York Times best-selling author of The Art of Having It All, A Woman's Guide to Unlimited Abundance, which who doesn't love that? Her newest book is called Quantum Success, which is 7 essential laws for a thriving, joyful, and prosperous relationship with work and money.
It's a mouthful.
I'm like, there you go, all of it. She is the CEO and founder of Quantum Success Coaching Academy, which is a 12-month law of attraction coaching certification program, and has helped thousands of people worldwide to achieve their goals through her empowerment seminars, speeches, and coaching sessions, and products and books. She has appeared on the Today Show, the Morning Show, and her work has been featured in People Magazine, 17, Women's Day, Hollywood, Life, Teen Vogue, and now she's on the Love Your Life show. So hooray us. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I've been a longtime supporter of your work, and I was trying to reflect on where I first heard you, but as we know, those things sort of come into our universe. It might have been Terry Cole. It also might have been, I don't know, but I know that I love hearing you, and I am thrilled that I now have the opportunity to bring your message out to the Love Your Life show listeners. And for listeners who haven't heard of your magic yet, could you give us a little background as to how you got to where you are?
Absolutely. So I started doing this work about over 20 years ago, when I just was so frustrated in my life because I had manifested, I didn't have that language back then, but I had achieved the things that I set out to achieve. I got a college degree. I moved to Chicago. I got a great paying job. You know, I had my little body. I had a great brownstone in Chicago with my best friend. And I just felt I'm like so unfulfilled. I felt like there's got to be so much more to all of this. I had money in the bank, so I was like, check all the boxes of everything that I thought was supposed to make me happy. And as I started to have this thirst, like this hunger for more, to understand more, I found myself moving to California. I was dating a guy that I knew from California, and I moved there. And as soon as I did, within a very short period of time, I learned that he was cheating on me with somebody else. But in that whole process, he had introduced me to a friend of his that was a hairdresser. And so I went to go get my hair cut, and she had such an exuberant joy that came out of her. She was just so bubbly, and it was a different kind of joy than I had ever experienced with anybody before. And I just kept like looking at her, and there was something very different. Again, I didn't have this language back then, but there was something very different about her energy. And so I just kept kind of looking at her and listening to her, watching her. And I said, I got to know. It was like that scene in Harry Met Sally where I'm like, I'll have what she's having.
I'd like some of that.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I got to know. What do you do? And she just started laughing. She goes, nobody really asked me that question. I go, there's something very different about you. And she said, well, I do a form of a meditation. And I said, what is it? It was like, I was so like, you got something I want. Right. And so I'm sorry.
How much does it cost?
Right. I'm like, where do I go for this?
Yeah.
So she said, well, I learned meditation from a meditation teacher. Her name is Melanie. Let me give you her number. And I said, great. So I'm dialing, it was the time of the big cell phones. I'm dialing Melanie as I'm walking out of the salon, and she didn't return my call. And so I was like hounding her, and she's like, I'm not doing this work anymore. And I'm like, no, Janine has something that I want. There's an inner light within her. And so she's like, oh, well, you could come in for a session. We can talk. So I came to her house. It was very different than I'd ever experienced. There was incense and crystals, and, it was very woo-woo, which I wasn't a woo-woo person at that time. And I sat down, and something about it felt very calm to me. But she said to me, you create your own reality. Now, Susie, this was before the internet. This is before you could go anywhere and hear, hey, you create your own reality. And that was the first time I'd ever heard this. And there was something inside of me that knew that was true. And so she started talking more about you're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you. And once again, there was something that just knew, something inside of me that just knew this to be true. And so my homework assignment was to go back home, to listen to my thoughts, pay attention to what I was thinking. And as I started to do that, I realized, wow, like it's a really negative place here. I was very judgmental about myself, about other people, about life, very critical, constantly beating myself up. There was no level of self-love. It was just like I was a horse, like a whipping a horse kind of thing. Work harder, do more, or achieve more, and it just didn't feel good to me anymore. And so I started learning the practice of meditation, and also started really seeking like what makes life work. And through all that, I learned that there are 7 essential laws. These are not like someone said, here are the 7 essential laws. Like that's what I do. I've gathered them along my trail of learning and applying them. And really about 14 years ago, it came to that these are really the laws that make life work. It's like knowing the rules of the game, or knowing, if you're going to build a house, what the blueprint is to build the house, or to the map to get to a destination, or the GPS to get to a destination. It's the guideposts that all of us need to know, because they're universal. They work for every single person. And if we know about them and know how to navigate with them, we can actually make our lives work, because we do create our own reality. And so I've been teaching those ever since. It's the basis of everything that in my books, in my coaching academy, in the coaching and healing that I do. It's based on those 7 essential laws, and helping people understand them and become aware of them, and more importantly, apply them.
Okay, which is magical. And I've got to say that I'm thinking we're around the same age. You might be younger than me. I'm 47, but it's
48.
Okay, and
yeah.
So I am much newer. Like, to hear, I just need to, for our listeners, if they're not watching the video, that you're saying you've been at this for 20 years, they might picture like an 80-year-old. So you, Christy, like you grab this, and I think some of our listeners have never heard of any of this, and they might not have seen the movie The Secret that I know came after you started your work, but all of this idea, could you give a sort of 101 law of abundance, sort of one of the main laws that maybe people have heard of? How would you?
Yes. So law of attraction is one that if you have heard of a universal law, like you said, it's either you watch The Secret, you've heard about law of attraction. And I hear all the time people say law of attraction doesn't work, or it works for someone else. It doesn't work. It might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. And I'm here to tell you that law of attraction is working all the time, like gravity. You and I do not have to sit there and think about gravity in order to be settled into our seats. Gravity is working, whether we're thinking about it, bringing it up in conversation, whether we're working with it or not, it's working. And so law of attraction is the same. It's always just mirroring back to us what we're giving out. So to start that conversation is really to understand that each human being is an energy tower, and we're receiving energy from higher levels, but we're also transmitting energy. So what we think, what we believe, what we perceive, what we say, what we do, our actions, all emit an energy. And as we're giving out that energy, because this universe is vibrational, everything is energy. We know this from quantum physics and modern science now. You are getting matched. What you give out, the same situations, circumstances, events, people, comments, all that are samely matched, because frequency needs to match with other frequencies. It's what we're tuning into, like on a radio dial or on a TV station. So what we're giving out comes back, and there's really nothing to apply there. Law of attraction is just always giving us more of the same. What we need to apply and understand is that there are other universal laws, like the law of deliberate creation, where we can look at a situation, instead of just having a reaction to it, we can decide, how are we going to respond to it? Do I respond with more lack? Do I respond with abundance? Do I respond with positivity? How am I responding with it? How am I going to be sending out the signal so that what's coming back to me shifts? And the most important law that ties all of them together is the law of sufficiency and abundance. Because as a human being, most of us have been trained, we've been programmed to believe in lack and limitation. We're not enough. There's only so many jobs to go around. There's only so much money. There's only so many guys. There's only a limited amount. So we've been all trained to believe in limitations. And the truth is that the broader part of who we are is in pure potentiality, is in abundance. And so when we are focused on lack and not having enough, we always feel bad. When we're focused on feeling good and what the potentiality is and and the probability and the limitlessness and all of that stuff, we feel good. And so it's up to us to shift our perceptions, our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions, and make sure that we're coming at least from the place of being satisfied, because it's the law of sufficiency and abundance, not the law of abundance. We have to at least be coming from a place of it's sufficient, it's enough, I'm content, I'm looking for the positive aspects in order to tip the scales into the place of feeling good.
Okay. So I hear you. I have a lot of listeners who are caretakers, either mothers or people caring for their elderly parents. And I'm wondering if we can give a sort of more concrete example, like as there's a lot of worrying happening, from the mother standpoint. And what if my kid in school doesn't have a great year? And what if my kid doesn't make friends? How would one of the universal laws affect or help this affect that situation?
Well, worry is one of the lowest vibrations in the universe. And they say that worry is a prayer for what you don't want. And so as a mom, it's very common, it's very conditioned. It's like a normal human response to worry about our kids. But what we're doing is we're putting out energy of what we don't want on our kids. And so the best thing that we can do as a parent is to focus on what we do want for our kids, to focus on them being safe, being healthy, being happy, being prosperous, whatever it is, thriving in school. Whatever that is that we want for our kids, we need to shift our energy and attention off of what we don't want to happen onto what we do, because everything's energy, we're feeding that to our kids. We're making our kids start to worry and start to fear, and then they're starting to attract that into their experience. So one of the things we have to be sure of, especially as a mom, because and I'm a mom of two boys, I have a almost 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I see this all the time, is that when I'm focused on the goodness in them and I'm focused on, them succeeding and them doing well and thriving and having friends and having fun and all that, then they pick up on that energy. If I go into worry or fear, they also pick up on that energy because they're like sponges. And, we do as mothers have a big effect on our kids and what they pick up on.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that follows exactly what you were just saying with the sufficiency and abundance. That if we're thinking, we might have this thought that is like, oh my gosh, they're entering, middle school. Will they make friends? But if we can direct it and be like, look at all the friends they have. Look at the times that they've made friends. Look at how they have had, they have support around them. That is going to create that different energy.
Absolutely. And to know that, each of our kids have alignment with their divine self, and that they, have connection with the stream of pure positivity and potentiality. And that, as parents, we don't want anything bad to happen to our kids, but we have to embrace that there's this thing called contrast. Every single human being will have things that appear in your reality that is something that you don't want or something that you do want. And it's up to our own human experience to say, you know what, that's not what I want. I want this instead. And so we have to be able to, from an energetic perspective, share with our kids how to do that. Instead of focusing on what we don't want, focusing on what we do want. And that contrast, whether it's someone saying something rude or, someone doing something inappropriate or, whatever it is, not to keep all of our attention and focus on what the possibilities of those things happening, or if something does happen, to focus on what we want to feel, what we want to experience, what we want. We're creating our life experience by where we put our attention. So we need to put our attention on what we do want, why we want it, and how we want to feel.
I love that. And I'm often, saying what you look for, you will find. So if you're looking for the negative, you're going to, which is that energy. Like if you're looking for it, you're going to find it, you're going to get more of it. So let's look over here for what you want and what you have already.
Yes.
Which is, you speak of the importance of creating an environment of success. Could you speak a little more to that?
Absolutely. So, everything starts from the inside out. We've all been programmed to believe that if I want to feel successful, or if I want to feel freedom, or I want to feel love, then I have to go get this thing. We assign our emotions outside of ourselves. So whether it's, I want to, have my kid be safe, if my kid is safe, then I'll feel okay. right? If my kid's happy, then I'll feel happy. I had a girlfriend of mine, it was a couple months ago, and I couldn't believe she said this to me. She said, oh, I was talking to a mom friend of mine, and this friend said that you're as happy as your saddest child is. And I went, that's horrible. But so many parents think like that. It's like, oh, well, this one's not doing well in school, so now I'm worried here, or I'm not feeling good here. Mind the other kids or kid that I have that's really thriving and happy. I'm not focused on there. I'm focused because if one's sad, I'm going to be sad. And so it's this giving our power away, giving our emotions away to circumstances, situations, people, events, thinking that if this changes, then I'll be happy. And the truth is, we have to choose to feel the feeling of freedom, feel the feeling of success. So when you're saying creating a environment of success, the environment of success has to start inside of us as our energy, as our essence, feeling successful. And when we feel successful, then we attract things. Instead of going after these things to try to feel success, when I get this, then I'll feel. And then we get there, and because of law of sufficiency and abundance, if you're trying to track something from a place of not feeling enough, when you get there, you're still not going to feel enough, because you can't ever attract from a different vibration. So the real way to do that is feel enough, feel successful, feel the freedom, whatever essence you're wanting, feeling sense. That's what we're all wanting anyways. When we want a new car or a new house or a kid or anything that we want, we think that if I get this person, place, or thing, then I'm going to feel. Well, just feel that way. Then you're coming from a place of fulfillment. You're happy along the journey. And then when it comes, you get to feel even more excited.
I love that in your book, The Art of Having It All, you really dive into that, the outside in or inside out, like versus the when I lived the first part of my life like that. Like, okay, so when I get into the good college, then I'll be happy. And then when I get the husband, I'll be happy. And then when I have the kids, oh, and now I need a dog, and that'll do it. And then I get there and I'm like, wait, could you speak a bit to that?
Yeah, so I love that, because it's a natural part of us to want to create and expand and to have more. The perspective, though, has to be coming from sufficiency instead of I'm missing something, so therefore I want more. So the example I could give you is that, I was single. I was married before, got out of a marriage, and I was really clear about the kind of person that I wanted to be with and the kind of marriage that I did want, and clear about all that kind of stuff. And so there was that interim period where I was single, and I really felt that space of, I really do want to have someone I can share my life with and create a history with, and, and be able to have kids and all that stuff. But I was coming from a place of, I don't need someone. I was like, I'm very connected and in a place of self-love, and this other person will come and add to my life. And being in that place, I attracted my husband, Frederick. We've been together 13 years now. And it was amazing what happens, because he was living in Montreal, I was living in Philadelphia. So we met each other. And then it was like the next desire we had was obviously living in the same city, living in the same place, being together. So we manifested that, right? And then we get into his condo, and then it's like, well, let's create our dream house together. Let's create a place where we're going to, have as our own. And then we built our dream house together. And then it's like, okay, and now we have a child. And then, whoa, we got we're pregnant again, and now we're going to need a bigger house. And, it goes on and on and on. Like now we have a second house, and then, now we have a dog, and, it goes on and on. When you're coming from a place of, okay, well, I wanted the kid that I'm still unfulfilled. Maybe it's another kid that's going to, no, it's not that. It's not a second child. Maybe it's the dog. Maybe it's, oh, you know what it is? It's more money in the bank. Or no, it's the bigger dream house. When we're always chasing after it, there's a sense of, I'm not fulfilled, so I'm looking for more to do it, versus I'm very fulfilled. I love my life. And oh my gosh, look at that. We're adding another, we're going to get a dog, because it's going to add even more. Nothing's missing. But my husband, before we got our dog, it was this exact same conversation. He's like, our lives are so amazing. We've got great kids. We've got, travel, and we have you have great business, and we have great house. Our lives are just amazing. Why do we want a dog? Because nothing's missing. And I said, we want a dog because it's just another fun thing to have. And the kids want a dog and have that experience. We don't want a dog because we have to have something else because we're missing and have to compensate for something. It's a very different way of creating, from not enoughness to sufficiency.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, so it's very interesting because I've had a similar path. I had a first marriage and then that ended after, it was not the dog that didn't, but sort of this midlife awakening, like, oh, it's not the dog, Susie. And then I had this period where it was like, all right, turn inward, like figure yourself out, love yourself, get to that place. It sounds like, what you sort of went through when you went to California and talking to the meditation teacher or whoever, and then being like, I'm good, I'm great. And then attracting my soulmate from Australia. So I live on the East Coast of America and I'm like, there was something else involved here because we are on the exact opposite sides of the world and came together and sort of then manifested from there. So I hear you. And that is part of why I have made the Love Your Life show. How do we create this life that we love? And it's not that every day is rainbows and daisies, but it is this, how to, like in our days, how do we then cultivate that sense? How would you counsel someone to sort of start on the baby steps, from that place where you are so self-negative, as I was also, and that when you start to pause and reflect back, how do you then start on this path where you're not constantly searching outward for the new car to make you happy, or the new kid to make you happy, or your kid making the soccer team will now make you happy?
Yes. So a couple of things. First of all, and I love that question. Thank you for that. Because I get asked that question all the time, I actually created a free video series called Watch Your Words, because the very first place you have to start is with your words. Not only what you say outside, like not what you actually say out loud, but what you say to yourself. So for example, saying, I can't afford something. That whole word of can't closes down your energy system. It sends out a vibration and what's limited to the universe. And when we say, well, I can't afford, someone said, well, what if I can't afford it? If you're choosing to say, I can't afford it, instead, if you say just from the words, I'm choosing not to purchase that, or that's not a financial priority right now, it opens up your energy field and it doesn't keep you stuck in the can'ts.
Oh, you're
and
not
the limit.
I'm choosing not to. Yeah.
Yeah. And when your energy field is open, now that's a very different vibration. You're not constantly telling the universe, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Because guess what? You're going to continue forever and always, as long as you keep saying it, to not be able to afford the things that you want. So I created this 30-day series with 30 different phrases and words to shift from and what to. So your viewers can go to watchyourwords.com. And that's as a gift. The other thing I say is that whenever I'm sorry?
I was just pausing and telling the listeners that we're doing that. So 30 days, I'll give them a start. We'll go.
You will be amazed at when you start shifting your language, how differently you feel. Because it says in the Bible, and I don't quote the Bible often, but in the beginning, there was the Word. I mean, everything, the whole entire creative process begins with the word. What are thoughts? They're a series of words put together. So we need to be able to watch our words. So that's number one, is you got to watch your words. And then the other thing is that I was talking about the law of sufficiency and abundance, the Cliff Note version is, if you feel bad of any kind, mad, anger, resentment, betrayal, sadness, boredom, any of those, if you feel bad, you're in lack. If you feel good, even just, I'm content, I'm satisfied, I'm joy, I feel joy, I feel enthusiasm, I feel passionate, then you're in abundance. So bad is lack, good is abundance. And where you are in any given subject based on how you feel. So the way out of lack is to ask yourself, okay, I know what I don't want. What do I want? What do I want? And start just focusing in that direction. What do I want? And then why do I want that? Because as you start to ask yourself the why of it, you start moving the energy of it. And when you start moving the energy of it, you start, if for a long period of time, it takes about 17 seconds to shift a vibration, 68 seconds to actually start moving the law of attraction in that direction, according to Abraham Hicks. And so when you start moving your why and focusing on the why and listing all the reasons why you want it, now you start to feel better. And again, like we were talking about, that inside out versus outside in approach, now you understand why you want something, and it's really the essence of it. So the feeling of freedom, the feeling of joy, the feeling of contentment, the feeling of security or abundance or connection or whatever that feeling is. And then you connect with that feeling as often as you can, as consistently as you can. And as you do that, because it's law, it's universal law, and it's all vibration, you will start seeing evidence start out picturing in your life. You'll have another person, another place, another situation, another circumstance manifests itself because your vibration is consistently focused on what you want, why you want it, and how you want to feel.
Mm. I love that. Do you suggest certain practices, like starting at a certain, morning reflection?
Well, I always suggest to people meditation, because meditation is a way of quieting the mind and allowing yourself to connect with all that is, with pure potentiality. And that's always a great way to start. I have tons of meditations that I do to guide people, back to themselves and to release limitations and to release lack. So meditation is always a great way. But if you can't meditate, say you're at work and all of a sudden something happens, or you get a phone call from your kid and it's something that's contrast, something you don't want, you can just take a moment and say, okay, what do I want? What do I want the outcome of this thing to be? Right? Your kid's in trouble, got called into the principal's office. All right, what do I want the outcome of this to be? I want my kid to stay in school. I want my kid to understand the importance of this. I want to have peace and harmony in the house. I want him to or her to succeed. What are the things that you want? I want to feel good. I want to feel secure. I want to feel free. And then focus on that. And that's going to shift the outcome, because the manifestation is never done. We are always manifesting.
Okay, I love that. And I do need to say, warriors, that yes, focusing on what we want, but you also, what I love about your work is that you don't just skate over the more difficult to feel emotions. And one of the concepts you speak of is accepting and allowing feelings and emotions. And I just want to, I have down here, page 36. Nothing can happen, of your book, Having It All. Nothing can happen until you start paying attention to you. And this means listening to your emotions rather than trying to resist, suppress, ignore, or deny. And so with that as a backdrop, and say you get a call that your son has been caught vaping, how do you marry those two ideas together?
Great question, Susie. So glad you asked that question. Well, whenever we hear a news or get a reaction or have something happen, right, wherever the contrast shows up, we have this whoosh of emotions, and the emotions are there to inform us. If we get angry, maybe it's because we're noticing the anger because someone has crossed a boundary. When, like you said, you find out your child is vaping or something, it might be this sense of anger. It might be a sense of disappointment. It might be a sense of fear. It's important to feel the emotion, because everything is energy. And if you are not feeling the emotion, letting yourself feel the pulsation of the energy and releasing it, then you're going to continue to be at the set point of fear or disappointment, and then that's going to project into your communication with that person. It's going to continue to come out. So feeling yourself and letting yourself be real and clear with your emotions and processing your emotions is absolutely essential, because we have so many people that are using vices. They're numbing themselves. They're completely depressed. You have on one side of the spectrum depression. Depression is actually not an emotion. It's a state of being. It's a disease state now, because the sadness has been so suppressed that it leads to a state of depression. Anxiety is on the other side of the scale. Anxiety is not an emotion. Anxiety is a suppression of an emotion that is now so, crazed, whether it's fear that has just gone awry. So these two states of being, so many people are walking around feeling they're depressed or anxious, and because they're suppressing what needs to be released. Mm-hmm. When you look at emotions as just energy in motion, you can just allow your heart to open, feel the disappointment. If you have to cry, cry. I had something the other day happen in my business where I recorded something for almost an hour with my team. I did this webinar. It didn't record, and I had to record it again. Okay. So I was like, so I just literally, I'm like, okay, guys, give me a minute. And I muted myself and I just screamed, and I was just like, and I just got out all of that disappointment, anger, frustration, energy out. I let it all out. And then I was like, okay. And then I brought light back in, got into a good feeling place, allowed myself to get centered again. If I would have just continued to barrel through without feeling that frustration or that anger or that disappointment, it would affect everything else, during the day. So there's things that you can do. And that's one of the things I teach through energy mastery and stuff like that is, being able to process your emotions. It's essential because your emotions are how you feel yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love what you also just said. It's that they are a signal, something to listen to. So, that frustration, like, yeah, okay, listen to that. Or the fear, you hear your son has been vaping. It's like, okay, I feel that's a normal human reaction to have in that moment. Allow it. You don't need to go, use a vice or do anything to stuff it down. And I think that's really important because that's not really encouraged in this environment to like,
Right.
hey, I'm feeling fear. I'm just going to let myself sit with the fear. And it doesn't take that long when we're not avoiding it.
Takes 90 seconds to actually process it, give or take a couple of seconds, but it's around 90 seconds to actually process an emotion. I think we can all take 90 seconds for ourselves to feel the fear, feel the frustration, feel whatever it is, and let it go. And then that's when you can look for choices and options. I want to just bring this up because it keeps coming up. So I just want to share this because you were out talking about mothers, because we were talking to my son Maxim about this last night. There was I think it was the start of last year, he wanted to go into competitive soccer because he and his brother had been in recreational soccer. And we said, okay, if you're going in competition soccer, competitive soccer, it's a lot more money. There's, you really have to go out there and give your best. It's not just like, woo, let's just pick flowers and stuff. That's what you were frustrated with because nobody on the team was taking it serious. You're going to have other kids on the team that's going to want to win. Are you willing to do that? Yes, willing to do that. So we're at a game one day and Maxim was just totally not focused. And a couple of times he made errors and the other team scored. And I was feeling frustration because I could see the other parents were frustrated and the kids are frustrated because he wasn't holding up his end of the bargain. And so I felt my frustration. I literally had to go for a walk on the field, felt the frustration. It took me 90 seconds or so to process it out. After the game was over, I said to him, how do you think you played? Great. And I said, really, you think you played great? And I said, can I just share with you something? And he said, yeah. And I go, did you know that you made a couple of errors? And when you made those errors, everybody's human, nobody's perfect. But when you made those errors, you weren't really paying attention and the other's team scored. And he goes, yeah. And he said, so that's fine to do if you want to be in recreational soccer. But if you're wanting to be in competitive soccer, like we talked about, when you put your 2 feet on that field, you got to be 100%. You got to be focused. You got to be, like present. You got to want it. You got to want to have fun with it. And if you're not, we'll put you in recreational soccer. But that's what you need to do. And so he's like, no, I want to be in competitive soccer. He was the most improved kid. And now they're like, everybody calls him the wall because he's like the defense guy. No balls get past him. So if I would have come to him and gone, we paid for you to be in soccer, and let my frustration speak to him, I would have hurt his self-esteem, but because I released the energy, because that's what it did, and women are afraid to communicate because their emotions are so there, right? Or men are afraid to listen to women because they're too emotional. Well, if we manage our own emotions, if we manage our own energy, and we're like releasing all that, then we're able to calmly communicate how we're feeling or how we felt, then there's better communication. And, then you're able to show options and choices. To you, Maxim, if you want to continue to play like that, great. We're going to put you in recreational. But if you really want to step it up and be in competitive, this is what you have to do. Are you willing to do that? Yes. And now he's like the star of his team.
Well, and I love that because it is just such an example that I'm sure all of us have happened, numerous times in any given month. But the idea that you have this reaction, you have the frustration, and then you pause and you feel it, and then you can come back to sort of, this is that, the universal love. Like, how do I want to show up as a mom? What do I want? And it's bringing back to what you do want, feeling that which you probably don't want to feel, the frustration, but it's allowing it.
Yes.
A sign. Something needs to come of this. I need to parent, but how do I want to show up as a parent? And I think that's wonderful. It's a really neat.
Thank you.
Yeah, example there.
Real life example. I mean, it's like, it's a really applying this information on a day-to-day basis in your couple, in your, parenting, with your friends, with your business, with yourself. I mean, when you start to apply these 7 essential laws, and it's not like start to apply them and expect yourself to be a master's student. I mean, I've been applying them for over 20 years and I'm still learning, I'm still processing, I'm still growing, and I will continue because it's never ending. But life becomes so much more more empowered, more creative, more fun, more on purpose, less controlling. It becomes more harmonious and peaceful when you actually know what the rules of the game are.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the less controlling, letting go of some control has been really one of the most freeing things for me, to not have that fear and like, oh my gosh. And a lot of that has been sort of this, what do I want, and visualize it and make it happen, and seeing that as a result. And I guess that's what your initial teacher told you, that you create your own reality. I had just done a couple podcasts on this sort of idea, if you believe it's possible, it is possible. And if you believe it isn't possible, it isn't possible. And for your son, he obviously believed that it was possible to be this awesome soccer player. And I'm sure he wasn't that wall the very next game, but to be able to, see himself as this player, and then he keeps taking the action to get there. And it is a journey. Life is a journey. So
It is.
yeah. Do you do things with visualization or visualizing your future self, or?
Oh yes, I'll do that. Part of the coaching academy that I have is we teach processes and how to not only connect with the future self, but also heal the past, because our brains as natural human beings, we're always cycling between our past, our present, and our future. So, any woman on a typical day could be like listening to this going, this is interesting. I wonder what I have for lunch. What did I have for lunch yesterday? Oh, I didn't like that. I want to go to this restaurant. It's like our minds are just like, okay, well, back to the moment. Wait, they're talking about that. What did I miss? So our brains are always just doing this, that monkey mind. It's a cycle. And it goes when we can focus on the future and connect with the future self and design that future self that we want, and know that that future self exists. We tend to, when we come back into the now moment, we feel a sense of like, but if we're like afraid of the future, we're going to have anxiety in our now. And then if we're also thinking about the past and there's things that get us gunked up, that past projects us into our now and then also into our future. Oh, that bad thing, I got my feelings hurt, or that person betrayed me, and you feel that in your now, and then you project that all girlfriends are going to do that, or all men are going to do that, or my kid is going to continue to do that. So it's important to release the energy of the past, so that as you are doing this cycle, you're like, yep, all good there, present moment, and then you can be more present in the now.
Well, and I guess that also comes back to your environment of success, where if you're, trying to portray this positive future where you're whatever you are, a parent who isn't yelling, or a woman in a wonderfully committed relationship, if you are surrounded actually by people who are telling you that's not possible, let alone your thoughts are telling you it's not, but
Yeah.
Get that, to address the actual people and things that you're bringing into your environment would be very important.
All of it. Yes. Thoughts, feelings, people you connect with. It's funny because I'm very particular about the kind of people I have in my world. I'm very protective of my world and my environment. And if I find that someone, as much as I care about them, is doing drama and stuck in drama and is not getting that they're in drama, no matter how I express myself and, no matter how much I release and that sort of thing, if I feel like there's just this stickiness energy and that the relationship doesn't feel well, I don't have a problem dissolving it. Because it's if that's where they're stuck, I don't want to try to change them. I allow them, as the law of allowing, I allow them to be where they are. You're free to be where you are, but I also need to take care of myself and have my own boundaries and be able to, surround myself with people that love me and support me and allow me to be who I am too.
I love that. I hadn't thought of the law of allowance in that way, although I have set some pretty significant boundaries in my life, and I have said that I sort of release them to be free, and so I'm not holding this resentment. I'm not wishing they were other than they were. I feel that I did everything I could in that relationship, but now I release them to be them. and I will move forward and be me. And I hadn't
That's freeing.
linked to that. It's very freeing. It feels wonderful. And I know that I share with people, people, my biological family, I am no longer in communication with, and they'll say, how's your relationship with your parents? I'll say, it is wonderful. It's better than it's ever been. And they're like, oh, you're back. And I'm like, no, I'm sure, and I'm so like, life is grand. And it is freeing and feels wonderful. And I know that, that's just something that I would love people to just sort of see. If you have these negative influences in your life and you have made some, kind and gracious boundaries that are not adhered to, you can just set people free and let them be them and stop. I was trying to control and change, and it was just so much.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we're good.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. Let's go. Well, that is what I just love. Thank you very much for the time that you have taken. I imagine people are just going to want more, Christy. So where can they go to find you?
Well, you can go to watchyourwords.com. So I really recommend you watch that video series. Like I said, they're short videos every single day. They'll get you on the right track. You can always go to christywhitman.com. I have meditations, how to be a coach. I talk about vices. I talk about energy mastery. I have a show every Monday that comes out. I also have a conscious connected coupling podcast with my husband. So lots of goodies.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I will have all those links in the show notes at www.smbwell.com/57. I think it might be 56, but I will have all those links. And I also highly encourage listeners to get the 2 books that I have just devoured. I love my books, and I'm always like highlights and it's how you know a good book. But if you are not a coach, but please get this book, and you're a mom having it all, if you're a woman or you interact with women. My husband read this too, and he just, so it's not only a female book, even though it says A Woman's Guide to Unlimited Abundance, but it is a human's guide to unlimited guidance. And then this one is another wonderful quantum success. As a businesswoman, it has really helped me sort of blow the top off some mindsets that had been holding me back and letting me get that quantum success. So thank you very much, Christy. I am thrilled that you joined us, and I just encourage all of us listeners to head out there and really think of what we're thinking about to create that life that we love. So head out. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Yay.